Hey guys, I'm miniGIRL with Hobby Hot Tips again, and today I want to talk to you about texture. It's everywhere, and I think that it's really important to discuss it in regards to our mini bases. Our bases need texture as well. Why? Because it complements the little miniature that we've all worked so hard to paint. Okay, maybe some of us haven't worked as hard as others, but nonetheless, still texture can add that little bit of oomph to the bases that it needs, or even to terrain. So instead of using the regular epoxy like me and so many other people have done, this is another great tool that I want to share with you. Textures can bring another dimension to our hobby, and different textures that you can put onto your bases, and kind of something maybe a little new to some of you, especially the beginners, with how to make the texture. Stay tuned. So to create your texture, you're going to need oven-baked clay, which you can find at your craft store. Sculpey is my favorite. Primo is a little tougher to work with. I prefer the original Sculpey. It comes in many different colors, which helps cut down on your painting time. For this project, I'm going to use metallic gray to give it a nice little sheen. And it takes about a minute to work it in, or condition as they call it in the industry. You can find this stuff in your craft store in the sculpting aisle. I'm also going to use sort of a camouflage green color. You can use a regular roller, rolling pin, or if you don't have that, you can just use a really fat marker. Make sure your surface is nice and smooth too. Grab a mold. I do sell them on my website, hobbyhottips.com. There's a lot to choose from, and this is my electronic one. I got a cookie cutter, which you can find in the baking section of your craft store, and it's the exact size of this particular base that I'm showing you. Obviously, you can cut out any shape that you want, but for the sake of this demo, I'm just going to be doing round. I love that the clays come in different colors because it does help speed up the process. Here's another one of my molds. It's a little bit different pattern on it, but same electronic style. Alternatively, you can roll out the clay onto a non-stick baking sheet with foil on it, or just make sure it's non-stick instead of scraping it up like this. Either way is fine, whatever works for you. You can't over bake them. Keep it roughly between 20 to 30 minutes is a sweet spot. Follow the instructions of the temperature on the package. Once they're cooled, you can go ahead and grab them. They're pretty flexible. You can cut them. You can also use a clay roller or pasta roller if you're very particular about having a nice smooth top. Now here I just simply used white glue to glue this particular base topper to my base. And now I'm just using a wash and a little bit of paint here to spruce up the metallic clay. For this particular base, I'm doing sort of a sci-fi look. And it's nice because it goes really quick because the pattern is basically already there for me, and it sort of acts as a template. Here's the final result. I'll show you another one that I did using a little bit different colors for neckrons. I just used a simple green wash, and again just used some accent colors on the side. This was the one with the little cutout piece on the edge. You can use scissors to cut out different shapes if you like after the clay is baked. Here is one of my secret weapons to give a nice wet look, triple thick. You can also find that at your craft store. Works great for using as water as well. Those of you that have seen my DVD already know that. And here it is with the Necron glued to it. Acrylic paints work extremely well with this type of clay. That's why I love this so much. Here's a couple other ones I did, different color clays. Now I'm going to show you another texture. This one works great for perhaps a lizard look. For those that love fantasy, I just use green clay, put a wash on it, a little bit of yellow, dry brushing on the edges. That's all I did. It was so fast, and that's why this process is amazing. Now I'm going to show you the same exact texture, but using different color clay to give more of maybe a sci-fi look. You can make it look like your minis are on some sort of different type of planet with different sort of terrain. So I'm just using really bright clays to just kind of give you an example of what you can do. So here I'm just using a light purple type of clay, and I'm going to be dry brushing it with some green and a little bit of moot green just in the middle, highlighting it. And then just following up with painting my edges the Caliban green. Now the second one here I'm going to show you, I cut up 2 different types of colors of clay and put a little bit of sand in between them. And now I'm going to give the sand that's in the middle a nice purple wash. I'm using a bold red to give it a highlight. Again, you can use any color combos that you want. This is just for a nice bright type of terrain. I also dry brushed using this lilac. Here they both are, same exact mold, just vastly different colors. Now again, using the same mold, you can get brown clay and have sort of a tree bark type of look as well. Instead of using a cookie cutter like I'm using here, or pastry cutter, you can use your hobby knife to shape it in any way that you want, or after you bake it, you can then cut it and shape it in any shape that you want. So for instance, this fantasy base, I wanted it square, I just cut it in the shape of a square. I added a light dry brushing to it. Now I'm adding a nice little wash or ink in between the lines. I add a little bit of tree sap just to show you what it would look like as sort of like a piece of bark or wood that your mini would be standing on. Just a whole different earthy tone altogether with that same mold. Here's another mold. This is the diamond plating. I know it's called other things in other countries. Everyone has their own name for it. Here in America, that's what I call it. Here again, I'm cutting it out and I just bake it. After I bake it, I just add a wash to it, and that's all I basically do. Another method that you can do is you can roll out the clay and you can add parts to it. I do recommend adding the parts to it before it's baked and making sure that your pieces are on the cookie sheet before you bake them, and then put the pieces on. I hope that all made sense. These are just basic watch parts on the War Machine base. Next up is a different mold with a leaf on it. Please leave your comments in the section below of any particular type of molds that you would like to see on my website, hobbyhottips.com, and I will happily see if I can sculpt it out and put them on there, and that way you guys can have access to these really cool different shapes. Be sure to keep watching to the very end because that one is my favorite. Next up is sort of an alien type of texture that you can use, or you can use them as peaks. They have very deep recesses in them. This is a nice light blue clay that I'm using. I added a little bit of green wash and a little bit of purple to highlight the peaks and the ridges of that particular piece. Now this one I'm doing white and a little bit of bronze to it. Here's the comparison. Again, any colors that you want with this particular mold. That's what's nice about having variety and choices. Now this one is my favorite. You can take 2 different colors of clay, mix them up just enough where you still see a marble pattern. Use a little bit bigger pastry cutter if you like for your larger bases, and it sort of looks like ruins. I simply cut it, put some white glue down, I added some sand, and now I'm just going to add a little bit of highlighting on the sand, painting the sand, and a little bit of greenery to, I don't know, give it some punch. Be sure to leave comments in the section below of which pattern or mold is your favorite, which one you would get, or if you have a texture mold in mind that you would like me to do, let me know. I've handcrafted these. remember, these are just for demo purposes. Be creative. And keep in mind you can combine any 2 colors of clay that you want, or 3. This one I'm doing green and yellow to give sort of a toxic look. It looks a lot more clearer in person, but here's an overall of what they all look like. Beautiful. You will definitely have people wondering how on earth you made your base. That's what you want. That's when you know you've done a good job, and it will make those little miniatures pop. Trust me. Okay, so here's a hot tip. You can take your molds that you have and you can glue them to a little block of wood so it becomes like a stamp, or maybe like an old lid from an old bottle or a Tupperware cap, something like that, and keep track of them that way. Just a thought, something fun to do. Also, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already done so. It does support me. I appreciate it. It's youtube.com/hobbyhottips. And my other hobby channel with other hobbies besides mini gaming. And it's for kids. Hobby Kids TV is my channel name. It has toys, Legos, Play-Doh, stories, lots of fun stuff. So if you have kids or no kids, tell them to check out our channel. They'll definitely get to see the goofy side of miniGIRL. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys real soon. Bye.